Nobody knew it at the time, but the words shouted inside that quiet dugout, before a single pitch was thrown, before the stadium lights had fully come alive, would end up echoing across the world. It didn't sound like a speech. It sounded like an earthquake trapped in the chest of a nation. It began with silence. A silence so heavy that even the roaring crowd outside the tunnel couldn't break it. The players stood shoulder to shoulder, breaths slow, eyes sharpened, hearts racing as if they already knew that something historic was about to unfold. In that silence, someone exhaled, just once, and it felt like the spark that ignited a fuse. Murakami stepped forward, the youngest of the giants. The one carrying scars from pressure, expectations, and the weight of a country's belief. His voice trembled at first, not from fear, but from the gravity of the moment. We decide who we are, today. Those words sliced through the tension like steel. A declaration, not just to his teammates, but to himself. To every critic. To every doubt that ever tried to bury him. The circle leaned in, closer, the energy rising like a tide ready to break. China waited on the field. Cameras were rolling. Millions were watching. But here, inside this circle, there was no noise, only the heartbeat of Samurai Japan pulsing louder and louder. Murakami's voice rose, cracking with fire, shaking the air around him. And suddenly the dugout erupted. Fists collided. Voices roared. And in that instant, Japan stepped into the tournament with a fury only they could understand. The game against China felt less like a match and more like a statement. Every swing, every pitch, every stolen glance between teammates looked like they were saying, "We're not here to participate. We're here to dominate." And the echo of Murakami's words carried them through every inning. But tournaments don't stay easy. Not when destiny is involved. By the time Australia stood in their way, Japan had fire, but they also had pressure, expectation, and the suffocating knowledge that one mistake can rewrite a story. That's when Maki stepped into the circle. Calm, grounded, yet burning inside like a star collapsing into itself. No theatrics. No dramatic pauses. Just conviction as sharp as a blade. Whatever happens out there, we move as one. The players nodded, their breaths sinking, their hearts steadying. It wasn't a scream this time. It was a promise. A vow. A moment of unity forged in the furnace of the tournament's rising tension. And unity became their weapon. Against Australia, every defensive play felt choreographed by fate. Every swing landed with purpose. Japan wasn't just playing baseball, they were performing a story they already knew the ending to. Italy came next. A team full of confidence, talent, and heart. But even they couldn't predict what was coming. Because now, the circle had a new voice. A voice from across the Pacific. One that didn't grow up under Japanese high school banners or swinging at Koshian dreams. But a voice that carried the same pride, and maybe even more hunger. Newt Barr stepped in. His eyes wide, his grin fierce, his passion overflowing like it had nowhere else to go in life but this exact moment. His Japanese wasn't perfect, but his soul didn't need translation. Let's go. Let's play our baseball. Let's show the world. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't scripted. It was raw, chaotic, explosive, just like the spirit he brought to the team. The circle erupted around him. Players slapped his back. Someone yelled his name. Another echoed his words. And then Japan walked onto the field against Italy like a storm that had just found its thunder. But storms don't last forever. Sometimes, they crash into mountains. Mexico was that mountain. A team with grit, passion, and an unwillingness to back down no matter how hot the fire burned. Their swings were violent. Their energy, electric. Their confidence, unshakable. For the first time, Japan felt the weight shift. The fear creep. The doubt whisper. So the circle turned to its anchor. Darvish. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. When he stepped forward, the air itself seemed to listen. Pressure doesn't crush us, he said quietly. It shapes us. The words carried the wisdom of years, the scars of battles fought in silence, and the calm of someone who had weathered storms that would have broken lesser players. Look around, he added, eyes sweeping across the circle. There is no one else you would rather fight with. The players breathed deeper. Their shoulders lifted. Their chests opened. And even in the face of Mexico's fire, Japan found a way to burn hotter. The game became a war. A story written pitch by pitch, inning by inning, with momentum swinging wildly like a pendulum that refused to settle. When Japan finally pulled off the miracle comeback, the stadium didn't cheer, they erupted like a volcano that had been waiting centuries to explode. But the journey wasn't over. One more mountain. One more storm. One more battlefield. The United States. Champions. Titans. Legends. A lineup built like a highlight reel stitched together by destiny and power. The Japanese dugout was quiet again. Too quiet. Players weren't breathing. They were holding the weight of an entire nation, knowing this was the last circle, the last chance, the last spark. And then Ohtani stepped in. He didn't look like a superstar. He didn't look like a man carrying the hopes of millions. He looked like something more ancient, more powerful. Like a warrior standing on the edge of history. His voice was low, steady, and burning with purpose. Forget who they are, he said. Remember who we are. The circle tightened. Don't admire them. Don't fear them. Challenge them. The players leaned in, breathless. Every pitch, every swing, every moment. We fight. Until the last out. The roar that followed shook the dugout so hard it felt like the walls would crack. And the game felt like destiny arguing with itself. Japan struck first. The US punched back. The innings twisted, tightened, coiled like a snake ready to strike. And by the time the last inning came, the world was holding its breath so tightly that silence itself felt alive. Ohtani walked to the mound. Across from him, his teammate. His friend. His mirror. Mike Trout. The baseball world froze in time. Every speech. Every circle. Every battle. Every scar. Every moment of unity, fear, hope, and fire, all of it led to this. Ohtani breathed in. The silence shook. The world leaned forward. And with a single pitch that felt like the entire weight of Samurai Japan compressed into a moment, he ended the game. Ended the debate. Ended the story. Japan didn't just win the World Baseball Classic. They completed a journey written in courage, unity, and fire. And the echoes of those circle speeches, the words that sparked it all, still reverberate through history. Because Samurai Japan didn't step into the WBC to play baseball. They stepped in to change it.